How's it going, class? This is Andrew Crotty in CYB 610 over at GCU. Today we're going to be going over our Lab 4 Second Hack Part 1. This is getting into our Key Objects Level 2 box, and let's go ahead and get started. So for the first bit of this, we utilized NICTO. First, I installed this into my Kali box. After installing it, I was able to see and find useful information about my Kali 2 box, specifically going over port 80 and a list of other details about what was current on that. So currently found out it's still running server Apache 2.52, achieves X powers by headers PHP 434 or 439, has the anti-clickjacking X-frame option header is not present, pretty important. Apache 2.052 appears to be outdated, so that's another thing that we can look into, possible getting into vulnerabilities. Web server returns a valid response with junk HTTP methods. This may cause false positives. As well as some other good information there, just running off that first scan. Next up was our OWASP Zap. So once again, of course, did the updates on the Kali box and was able to download that to grant file executable permissions. Once that was done, we went ahead and opened up the OWASP Zap in order to get our IP address in there so we could conduct our attack. Utilizing that, I selected Automated Scan, entered my IP address from my Key Objects box. 192.168.56.103 has to be different depending on the address that you're working off of for your addresses, and I selected attack. So you can see on some of there right now, I already had that screenshot after the capture of it, and it gave me some of what it was actually doing for the code and reasons it was sending and what it was trying to get me back to. Once it was all finished, after running that attack, in the highlighted box was my results. Missing anti-clicking clickjacking header. Content security policy CSP header was not set. It had an SQL injection for 2 additional post index PHPs. X content type operation header missing. Server leaks information via X powered by HTTP response header. And some other good stuff right there as well. Next up was Nessus. So went ahead and first we installed the Nessus onto the Kali box just like the other 2 systems. Once I had that up and running, I was able to navigate to my Nessus system where I was able to create my scan and went ahead and had that ran. Had about, I think, 53 or so different vulnerabilities. I'm going to go ahead and just pinpoint about 10 or so that I kind of found that I thought were pretty interesting. So you had SSL, multiple issue, might encompass Heartbleed bug, Poodle, SSL, SSL 3.0, blind shell backdoor detection. It's a shell and listening in a remote port without any authentication being required. Attack may be able to connect to a remote port and sending commands directly. NFF exported shared information disclosure. At least one of the NF shares exported to by a remote server could be mounted by scanning host. An attacker may be able to leverage this to read and possibly write files on a remote host. Received service detection. Received service is running on the remote host. This service is designed to allow users to network to executable commands remotely. However, Exceed does not provide any good means of authentication, so it makes it to be abused by attackers to scan a third-party host. Here as well, we had Unix operating systems unsupported, ISC bind multiple issues, web server we had multiple issues, and I'll let you guys just kind of read that real fast. So then kind of going into the what-if scenarios and kind of a hardening aspect when it comes to our ethical hacker mindset and putting on that hat. Why disclose this to the public? Companies want to make sure we're having good face. It always comes into the aspects of honesty better than deception. They want to make sure they have a good relationship with their shareholders, their employees, and their clients and users in order to know that, hey, if something happens, they need to make sure they own up to it. A lot of the time we'll see this with your CISOs, or if you have a public information officer with your organization, that it's solely their job to kind of go and sit in front of these type of public meetings and kind of give a briefing, answer questions after they've received all the facts and everything from the rest of the company and the reports. So it's always good to keep in mind that we want to make sure that hackers are constantly always looking for new ways in order to infiltrate systems and organizations. So we're always wanting to make sure that with all these vulnerabilities, we're making sure that we're keeping patches updated, keeping our end users informed on the most latest and greatest security measures, and ensuring that our IT and SOC teams are monitoring those alerts and making sure they're doing thorough investigations. Here are some references I used reference pulling this information. I really appreciate your guys' time, and I will see you next week for our next hack.